how the British neglect their military heroes and their graves. As you can see, this is a short narration of my visit to the battlefield of Chilianwala and to illustrate how the British neglect their military heroes and their graves. As you can see, this is the battleground of Chilianwala plotted on a Google map. As you can see, the Sikh position, the Khalsa position was in the black, the British East India Company's army position was in the red, and a bloody battle was fought here, which was a draw. Both sides could not achieve victory, and there is a very famous British graveyard here, but badly neglected. As you can see, to reach Chalianwala, you have to come from the Pakistani Grand Trunk Road to Kharian, and from Kharian you have to drive on a side road to Dinga, and then on another road you have to take a right turn and drive to Rasool, and short of Rasool is Chalianwala battlefield and the graveyard. Now the significance of Chalianwala, and of course for the layman reader, for ignorant people who don't know military history, why the Khalsa was superior to both Indian Army and Pakistan Army. As you can see, the 1965 Indian Army 1 Corps lost 575 fatal casualties in 17 days. Pakistan Army in the same area lost 693 fatal casualties in 17 days. In Chalianwala, the British in just less than 1 day lost 706 fatal casualties. So, this is the significance of Chalianwala, certainly much bigger than the Indo-Pak war, in which you find rather inaccurate and nonsense claims that the battle at Chavanda was the biggest tank battle in history after the Second World War. My fort Chalianwala was much bigger than Chavanda or any battle of 1965 war. Only one battle was bigger than Chalianwala, but Delhi casualty wise again smaller. In the siege of Delhi in 1857, the British company lost 1028 men, 67% of which were from the British company's private army. So British army's role again was much smaller. As you can see, this is just to illustrate the significance of Battle of Chalianwala. Now as you can see, this is the famous Chalianwala monument, and this is the famous Mayo Cross erected by Lord Mayo, the Governor General of India. And as you can see, this is the plaque on the main Chalianwala memorial. The battlefield has a special significance for me, as my paternal grandfather's great grandfather and grandfather served in the Sikh artillery, while my maternal grandfather's great grandfather and cousins were serving in the English East India Company Army's cavalry in the units which took part in that battle. As you can see, this is the boundary wall of the Chalianwala Memorial. As you can see clearly, this is again the Chalianwala Memorial at sunset. As you can see, now the most neglected graves are those graves of soldiers of Her Majesty's 24th Foot, a very, very famous and illustrious battalion of the British Army. They have got 3 mass graves, as you can see. I have plotted them on the Google map also. These are the three cemeteries of Her Majesty's 24th Fort south of Chilianwala, Court Baloch Road. As you can see, the first mass grave is here. As you can see, the eastings and northings, the coordinates are marked on the sketch. As you can see, this is the second mass grave of the Her Majesty's 24th Fort, and this is the third mass grave. As you can see, Her Majesty's 24th Fort was the major part of Battle of Chilianwala because they suffered the highest casualties and the maximum casualties, including the brigade commander, Brigadier Penicuik, who was from this battalion, and his son, and his brigade major, and a very large number of British officers and men. As you can see, this is the first mass grave of Her Majesty's 24th Fort, totally neglected. As you can see, it has got a boundary wall, but I don't think anybody from the hopeless British embassy in Islamabad visits these graves. They are bureaucrats, middle class boys enjoying good perks and privileges, good salaries and allowances, and they are pathetic as far as looking after graves are concerned. A third-rate lot. Sadly, when I visited British Embassy last in 1996, very large number of Pakistanis and all kinds of mixed breeds. A pathetic sight. Britain has been destroyed, no doubt. As you can see, this is a map to illustrate why these three mass graves are there. As you can see, this was Chilianwala village, this is Chilianwala village, this was Brigadier Penicuik's brigade. This is a depiction how that brigade charged. As you can see, there was a very, very idiotic Scottish British Brigadier Campbell who was commanding the left wing of the army, the division, the left division. And this character from Scotland, who later became the British Army chief also, Lord Clyde, he said that you will not use bullets, you will only use bayonets. And this brigade was massacred. As you can see, Her Majesty's 24th Foot is in the center, flanked by two Indian battalions. Now, Her Majesty's 24th Foot was new in India, not familiar with the Indian style of warfare, and they started doubling. So, by the time they reached the Sikh position, they were exhausted, plus there was a pond in front, because of which they had to either go through the pond or try to avoid it by going left or right. So, they lost the momentum and they fell in three batches. As you can see, the first batch fell here, the second in the middle fell here, and the third here. And after the battle there was rainfall, confusion. So, the Britishers, instead of taking these brave soldiers back to the central graveyard, buried them here. So, there were three mass graves which I have marked, as you can see, and they are in bad condition. And in the end, in the middle there was a pond, as you can see, in front of this Her Majesty's 24th Foot, because of which they had to change the line of march. And this is my photograph standing at the site of one of the mass graves. Again, as you can see, this is one of the mass graves of Her Majesty's 24th Foot, a sad sight. As you can see, this is the mass grave, center mass grave of Her Majesty's 24th Foot. I have marked the coordinates also, but no hopeless Britisher will ever go there. Anyhow, this is a photograph, a close-up of the mass grave. As you can see, the pathetic condition. Within few years you will not find anything here, and totally neglected. As you can see, the British claim to have War Graves Commission, but typical British bureaucracy and typical British pettiness, that is only for the Commonwealth forces, the First and Second World War, all kind of, clerical type of mindset, petty mindset, petty British mindset, nothing surprised. And this is one of the mass graves, as you can see, in bad condition. As you can see, this is the mass grave from a distance. As you can see, surrounded by shrubs and growth, and in the middle of a field, totally in a bad shape. As you can see, this is another of the mass graves. As you can see, just look at the growth, the wild shrubs and trees and bushes, and just look at the condition. This is the one of the mass graves again, a close up. As you can see, in bad shape, in pathetic shape, and one of the bravest battalions of the British Army. As you can see, again, just see, look at the shrubs, the growth is terrible. As you can see, this is one of the mass graves of Her Majesty's 24th Foot. You can hardly see anything. This is the plotting of the eastern mass grave on the Google map with the coordinates. As you can see clearly. Again, one of the photographs of the mass grave. As you can see, in bad shape, certainly in bad shape, but no Britisher is pushed. All upstarts there in the embassy, and all kinds of characters. As you can see, I am visiting the mass grave. As you can see, again, a picture from a distance, one of the mass graves. As you can see, this is the west mass grave. As you can see with the coordinates, this is again the mass grave. As you can see, while visa officers or visa agents make a hefty approximate 10,000 pounds sterling per visa, if we believe the investigative journalists we hear granting visas to immigrants from third world countries who will one day produce terrorists who will play hell with Britain, the poor soldiers who laid their lives for Britain have been forgotten. The powder of their bones sold to Japanese chemical dealers and their marble tombstones used as floors of latrines and rooms. As you can see, this is the condition of the mass graves of the graveyard, and now I will briefly introduce you to 24th Foot, how this brave battalion was destroyed by stupidity of a British Scottish general, then a brigadier, Campbell, as you can see, who played hell with British troops. I will read out to you shortly how the Her Majesty's 24th Foot was destroyed. A sad story, Brigadier Pennycuick's attack. We will now proceed brigade wise and briefly discuss the battle. Firstly, we will deal with Brigadier General Campbell's division. Campbell was a Royal British Army officer born in 1792. He had seen action under Wellington in the Peninsular War, and in 1849 had some 42 years of service behind him. Son of a Glasgow carpenter, Campbell was helped getting into the class-conscious British Army through the help of a rich relative. Campbell became, as was the norm at that time, a colonel after some 30 years service. He was described by many contemporaries as extremely brave and thorough, but utterly devoid of dash and too cautious and too selfish for any place, as is mostly the case with men with humble origins who progress upward slowly mastering all the red tapeism and bureaucratic obstacles in the armies. Campbell, like Gough, was a firm believer in the power of the bayonet. Campbell's prime responsibility was to command and coordinate the function of both his brigades. However, keeping in view the adverse terrain, he decided to accompany his left brigade, Hogan's brigade, in the attack, while ordering Pennycuick's brigade, the right brigade commander, to lead the attack on his own. Gough and Innes well summed up Campbell's decision as following, quote, "He abrogated the duties of a divisional commander to discharge with splendid success those of a brigadier. However, before the attack commenced, Campbell wrote to Pennycuick's brigade, and after briefing Pennycuick about the attack, rode on to Her Majesty's 24th Foot, the British unit of Pennycuick's brigade, and gave them the following orders, quote, 'There must be no firing. The work has to be done with the bayonet,' unquote. Her Majesty's 24th Foot, 1000 bayonets strong, had newly arrived in India. The unit was thus highly enthusiastic but highly inexperienced in the British Indian way of warfare. By some oversight or due to an out of proportion excitement, once Her Majesty's 24th Foot commenced its advance, it did so without loading its muskets. Through some confusion, the artillery designated to provide fire support to Pennycuick trotted to the left. Why and how, till now, nobody knows. Such was the inefficiency in the employment of artillery in Gough's army. Till now, nobody knows. Now, Pennycuick advanced rapidly towards the Sikh position, Her Majesty's 24th Foot doing more so rapidly, full of enthusiasm, to bayonet the accursed natives. That thin red line, tipped with steel, as the British infantry at that time was known. The Sikh artillery, whose overall commander was Elai Bakhsh, a Punjabi Muslim, functioned admirably, and as soon as the 24th Foot came into round shot range of 800 yards, it was effectively engaged by the Sikh artillery, and men started falling. At 100 yards, the Sikh infantry engaged the unit with musket fire, but the unit advanced stoically without firing back. Their muskets unloaded, determined to do the work with the bayonet as ordered by Campbell. 24th Foot was the first to emerge in the open ground west of the jungle, outstripping both the native units of Pennycuick's brigade, that is the 25th and 45th Bengal Native Infantry, on the right and left flanks respectively. Both the units never had any Bengalis, so let's be very clear. To add further bad luck to 24th Foot fate, right across its axis of advance was a large water pond between the Sikh position and the British unit. 24th Foot thus had to break formation to cross the pond, bypassing it from left and right, while some braver souls attempted to wade through it. At this moment, the Sikh artillery played havoc with 24th Foot, inflicting great slaughter. 24th Foot did reach the Sikh guns, but the punishment inflicted was too severe. At close quarter fighting started. 24th Foot lost many officers, including its commanding officer. The unit had not loaded its muskets and had advanced too fast, thus reaching the Sikh position unsupported by both native units. Beveridge states that the unit advanced at a double time pace because of a misunderstanding on part of two officers leading the brigade. However, this view is not substantiated by either Fortesque or Guffinins. The native units advancing more carefully while preserving their energy for the final assault under the more experienced British officers of the East India Company's private army did finally attack the Sikh position a few minutes after 24th Foot's attack, suffering many casualties in the process. But by this time, Her Majesty's 24th Foot was close to the breaking point. The Sikhs counterattacked, and the 24th Foot broke up and withdrew in disorder back into the jungle towards Chelianwala. The native units also withdrew. Penicuik, his son Lieutenant Penicuik, and his brigade major all died in the bloody engagement. In all, Penicuik's brigade lost some 376 men killed, 244 killed from Her Majesty's 24th Foot, 112 from the 25th Native Infantry, and 20 from the 45th Native Infantry, and about 417 wounded. As you can see, this is the charge of Penicuik's brigade depicted on the map. As you can see, this is how the unit charged, 3 battalions, and this is that fateful pond, if you can see carefully, marked in black. And then the unit was repulsed and went back towards Chelianwala village. As you can see, this is the battlefield of Chelianwala with Jhelum river in the background, the Sikh position and the British brigades, Campbell commanding the left division, Penicuik's brigade and Hogan's brigade, and another division on the right. The only battle in Afghanistan, Nepal, Burma, China, Iran, where a British divisional plus army was defeated or at least checked and failed to achieve a breakthrough against a non-European enemy. As you can see, this is the Battle of Chelianwala, Penicuik's attack, and this is the end of this podcast.